Salutations, people of the internet, welcome to the database. In recent years, the Nintendo 3DS and the PlayStation Vita have seen a huge resurgence in the video game community, whether if it's through sheer nostalgia from their respective libraries, or through the homebrew community continuing to grow strong and active to this day. Both handhelds have a lot to offer, even if the Nintendo Switch Lite is currently holding the handheld scene in a stranglehold. Oh yeah, and the Steam Deck exists, I guess. And less said about the PlayStation's upcoming handheld project, the better. And again, I can't really say much regarding the Valve Steam Deck, seeing as A, I don't own one, and B, even if I do own one, I know for damn sure I don't have a very strong Steam library to truly test the Steam Deck's limits. So maybe I'll discuss that handheld for a separate video for another time. For now, here's a comparison that I've been wanting to do since last year. Yep. Welcome to another installment of Data Comparison, where I pin two topics back to back in a series of 5 categories to see which is the best. What are those categories, you may ask? Category 1, the launch date, where I take a look at the reception of the handheld's launch. Category 2, launch titles. What games did the handheld started that grabs the consumer's interest? Category 3, performance and features. How well a handheld is handled, and what extra features does it offer aside from the games? Category 4, the exclusives. What exclusive titles does the handheld offer? And finally, Category 5, its legacy. What happens to the handheld after its lifespan? In addition, a mercy rule can be applied if a topic is one-sided with points given. But for this comparison competition, I'm sure that won't be any such mercy rule to follow. So with the explanations out of the way, let's begin the comparison between the 8th generation handhelds, the Nintendo 3DS, and Sony's PlayStation Vita. The Nintendo 3DS launched on February 2011 in Japan and March 2011 worldwide. The launch price was set at $249.99, which rubbed the wrong way for consumers who expected a cheaper price value for a handheld, especially with how cheap getting a Nintendo DS was in the previous generation. Thus, the launch sales were very poorly received. To fix that, 6 months later after the handheld's release, Nintendo reduced the price from $249.99 to $169.99. In addition to the price reduction, Nintendo offered an ambassador program to those who bought their 3DS before the reduction. This program offered consumers 10 free NES games and 10 free GBA games, and this was the only way to nab GBA injection softwares onto their 3DS without homebrewing the system. Though $169.99 is a good price value for the original model 3DS, the price would later increase a little bit by $200 when the launch of the 3DS XL happened. All 3DS models are pre-equipped with a 4GB SD memory card, though people are free to upgrade it to their own SD card that may be sitting around in their cameras for a cheap price value, for instance. Keep this in mind. The PlayStation Vita launched on December 2011 in Japan and February 2012 worldwide, with North American regions receiving the first edition released a week early. The first edition bundle came with the PS Vita and an exclusive game in Little Deviants, a hefty PS Vita case, and a 4GB proprietary memory card. Shit. See, the original price value for the PS Vita was $249.99, with the 3G data model being $299 or $300. And for a system that has 3GB data from AT&T, OLED touchscreen, back touchpad, 2 cameras, and 2 analog sticks, the price value seems justified. However, rather than utilizing an SD card format that is multi-purposable, like how the 3DS uses an SD card that can be found in cameras and PCs, Sony revealed a proprietary memory card similar to how they had their own memory card stick dual for the PSP and all the Sony licensed cameras. An extra 4GB memory card will cost you over $30 minimum, with other options available like 8GB, 16GB, 32GB, and up to 64GB. The last one costs you the same price as purchasing the PS Vita. And to think, this was all done to prevent piracy and homebrew modding on their handhelds. Yeah, you can homebrew the system to use an SD card adapter and your own micro SD card, half the price of the Sony proprietary memory cards. But I'll get to the homebrew scene when we get to the legacy section of the video. And the Vita's memory cards alone give the Nintendo 3DS the point for this round. They really suck, and what brought the Vita to its demise. Before we begin the next category, I want to apologize for the video quality of each of the captured footage for the Nintendo 3DS and the PS Vita, because none of those handhelds that I have don't have a capture card. I know that the PS TV exists for that purpose for Vita games, but I don't have that either, so this is the best I can do. Now, I never had both of these systems at launch, nor experienced the day of the system's launch, so I had to look at the list of launch titles for each handheld to see how many games they release on day one. That caught my interest. Let's start off with the 3DS's launch, and Jesus Christ, this is a small list. Yeah, despite the 3DS being known for doing so well nowadays, their first year in the market is a bit of a rocky one, as there are barely any titles that will catch the consumer's interest, with most of the games people can already play on other handhelds. Luckily, I do have some of the launch titles on my 3DS, 3 specifically: Pilotwings Resort, Madden NFL Football, and Super Street Fighter 4 3D Edition. How do some of they play? I spent a few minutes with all 3 of them, and honestly, that's it. Just minutes, and they're all mediocre. Okay, not true. I really do enjoy my time with Pilotwings Resort. Taking place in the same location as Wii Sports Resorts on the Wii, it utilizes the 3DS's gyroscopic controls very well and responsively, and the system's signature 3D effect makes the resort island appear so beautiful. Street Fighter 4 is a good game in general. It's the entry that introduced me to the Street Fighter franchise as a whole, but would I play this version on the 3DS? Probably not. My hands started to cramp trying to do all these quarter circle and other special moves. And yes, you can use a touchscreen to activate these special moves easily, but in terms of using them in combos, it's a nightmare. This game also has this unique camera angle never seen before in Street Fighter, and yeah, no thanks. Madden is also okay. Not the best way to play NFL games, but the frame rate is good enough to execute pass plays, running plays, kicks and punts, and gives you enough screen room to see the types of plays you want your team to perform. And yeah, I don't mind this one. As for PS Vita launch titles, yeah, I haven't played any of these. Okay, to be fair, I have played one game on the system, and that's Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And for a fighting game, this feels way better to play compared to Street Fighter 4 3D. I had a lot of fun with this port. Rayman Origins is a game that I'm familiar with, mostly from the sequel Rayman Legends. A way better and fast-paced game than what Rayman Origins was going for, but it is as good of a game as Legends regardless of which one you play. Along with the first edition release of Little Deviants, some games that also launch with the system are fan favorites such as Uncharted Golden Abyss, Touch My Katamari, Mod Nation Racers, and another fighting game series I enjoy, Blaze Blue. The game also launched with Gravity Rush, another game that I've been planning on playing, but haven't gotten myself around to do so. Okay, so both handhelds don't have the best launch, but how about this? Seeing as I've mentioned at least 3 3DS launch titles compared to 1 Vita launch title, I guess the point goes to the 3DS once again. So thankfully, I'm sure for the next segment, we won't be needing a mercy rule. I won't be going over the camera quality for both the 3DS and the PS Vita, cause they're both shit. So what about the rest? The 3DS's main feature is, you guessed it, the non-glasses 3D. The 3DS has a slider, where players can adjust the strength of the 3D effect or turn them off entirely. In terms of the control layout, the 3DS has the basics, the 4 buttons, the D-pad, start and select, and shoulder buttons. But then you get to this circle pad, and yes, the circle pad you see here has the rubber torn off, mostly because of my excessive play on Smash Brothers. But in terms of comfortability, it's alright. It's responsive, and I can see this being useful for 3D platformers. In future models of the 3DS, specifically the new 3DS models, it was given face tracking 3D and additional ZL and ZR shoulder buttons for games that require more button inputs, and a built-in NFC reader for 3DS games that use amiibo functionality. There's also this tiny nub that serves as the 3DS's second thumbstick. and it's functional. The PS Vita serves as a full-on successor to the PlayStation Portable in terms of comparing the PSP features to the Vita. You got 2 analog sticks, gyroscopic controls, redefined D-pad, and face buttons, and while we still got clear shoulder buttons, the Vita also has a back touchpad that kinda serves as trigger buttons for certain PlayStation titles. It serves as an interactive tool for games like Terraway, where you touch impact the stage. I would also say it has a touchscreen, but Nintendo did this first, so it's redundant for me to say. Depending on the model Vita you have, your screen might vary. For the PS Vita 1000 models, which is the one I have here, this screen is OLED, something that Nintendo would use for their latest Switch model as of this video. However, for the 2000 model, also known as a PS Vita Slim model, not only does it come with a built-in 1GB internal memory storage and has featured variety of colors, especially in Japan regions, but also uses a standard LED screen for cheaper cost value. And with the right setup on your Vita, there's also a way to watch some of your MP4 movies and MP3 music files on the system as well. Side note, I won't be going over the 3DS and Vita's online browser in this video because there's no sense, especially in the world of smartphones. In terms of similar features, the 3DS introduces Street Pass functionality, where 3DS owners can take their systems on the go to connect with other 3DS systems, and this is done wirelessly within sleep mode and uses a feature minigames seen in the 3DS Street Plaza. Taking the 3DS with you also allows users to rank up Street Pass coins that can be used in a select batch of 3DS software for in-game collectibles or for unlocking content. For the PS Vita's case, there was the Near application, where you can connect to other PS Vita users and compare PS Vita games that other people are playing, and also compare trophy status and share game items and information of select games on the go. This was discontinued on July 2017, right when the Switch was a hot new thing, and nobody cared about the Vita anymore. But that doesn't mean Nintendo has a fair share of discontinued services as well. The 3DS has this feature called Nintendo Zone that allows users to view videos of games, screenshots of gameplay, and other exclusive content at specific hotspots. There was also controversial yet popular Miiverse, which is essentially a Nintendo social media service, where users can draw Nintendo fan art and share and post gameplay and screenshots of their favorite games. Not too long ago, Nintendo discontinued the Nintendo 3DS eShop, making it impossible for users to legally purchase digital exclusive software onto their 3DS library. On the flip side, the PS Vita storefront is currently active as of this video, but that's because Sony planned on an announcement of discontinuing the storefront came at the same time as Nintendo made their announcement for the 3DS. And I guess they didn't want to look as bad as them, especially during the game's community's outcry of Nintendo's lack of care in preserving content. So good on you, Sony. Point for this category goes for you. Now we get to the most interesting portion of the comparison competition. What exclusive do the 3DS and PS Vita have? And I say that's because I enjoy a lot of exclusive that they have to offer. Let's start with the PS Vita first, seeing as I'm currently in the midst of experiencing some of what PlayStation has yet to offer. But I can list down some of the best exclusive I, among other Vita users, would definitely recommend. Let's get the obvious recommendation out of the way, Persona 4 Golden, a JRPG game that has been talked to death when it comes to bringing that and the PS Vita in the same conversation. So whatever I was about to say regarding P4G, you probably already heard from other people just by the mere mention of it. And I personally haven't started on getting into Persona 4 Golden, mostly because I'm still experiencing and still in love with Persona 5 Royal. And I'm just not personally ready to jump from one cast of lovable characters to another, because I personally have a huge attachment to the Persona 5 crew than Persona 4. I know it's a must play for anyone who has a PS Vita, and I know for sure that this game is still sitting comfortably on my PS Vita live area, but trust me, once I finish the story of Persona 5 Royal, I'll definitely start on playing Persona 4 Golden. You just gotta give me more time with this one. Well, That's a letdown, but how about we bring the boot up and discuss a couple more PS Vita exclusives that I have on the system. If I were to recommend some new platformers that you can experience on the PS Vita, it has to be Tearaway and Little Big Planet. Two cute platformers that utilize some of the Vita's features for a unique experience, especially when it comes to Tearaway, where you have moments in a game that utilizes the Vita's rear touchpad. And while for both games there are a majority of moments that either use the Vita's gyro controls or the front's touchscreen, overall, they're both calming experiences, and it's the version of Little Big Planet that got me into the franchise. Definitely seeing myself playing Sackboy Adventure on PS5 whenever it comes around. The PS Vita, mainly in the latter half of its life cycle, is home to a lot of promising indie titles, with indie developers getting the chance to shine and share their love for the Vita. Most of the games that I have in my library are just that, from Shantae, Half Genie Hero, Undertale, and the ever popular Shovel Knight, a game that arguably got its fame thanks to the Vita. I remember back when I was a kid, there was this demo kiosk that showcased the latest handhelds and consoles of the 8th generation, and I remember the Sony PlayStation kiosk that had the display of the PS4 and a hands-on demo of the PS Vita, and the first game I ever played on the system was Shovel Knight, and it was the most fun platformer I have had that was not on a Nintendo console. I will never forget that. Here's an interesting one for you. Sony mentioned when they revealed the PS Vita that it's strong enough to play PS3 quality levels of game, yet here they are releasing several collections of the PS2 title games. If that's the case, where's my PS Vita for the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 HD remixes? Along with the original PS Vita titles like Uncharted, Golden Abyss, Gravity Rush, and Killzone Mercenary, Sony ported over PS3 HD collections of Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, and Sly Cooper, along with the new Sly Cooper's 4th main game in the series. And out of all the HD collections that I've played so far, I really enjoyed Ratchet and Clank. So far, as of writing, I've only managed to play the original game and the second game, Going Commando. I haven't started playing Up Your Arsenal yet because I got too busy getting all the collectibles within the first 2 games, and heck, I even managed to platinum the first game. Ratchet & Clank is a third-person shooter action platformer, and it's games like this is where I get the chance to mess around and feel with the PS Vita's analog sticks. And for the long game sections like this game, these analog sticks feel pretty good compared to the 3DS's circle pad. Sadly, these analog sticks still press down, acting like L3 and R3 buttons. But for Vita games I played so far, it didn't feel like that I missed so much. And strafing while shooting is as easy as pressing down L2 and R2 instead. While playing Ratchet & Clank, camera movement feels so smooth and responsive, making the first-person shooting pretty good to control. I would go into detail of my experience with Ratchet & Clank, but I figured to save it for a separate video and now move on to some exclusives that I've enjoyed on the 3DS. Now, Nintendo is already known for having a very strong first-party library of games, but also a mix when it comes to third-party installments. So when it comes to recommending any first-party exclusives on the 3DS to anyone, that's something I can easily do, since majority of the games that I own digitally or physically are mostly first-party, and I shall name the best 3 first-party titles I'd recommend. Starting off with a game that definitely destroyed my circle pad's rubber texture, Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS. Yep, that's right, Super Smash Bros. First ever handheld entry in the series. Essentially, the roster for the 3DS version is basically the same as the Wii U version, seeing as many people refer to these 2 entries together as Smash 4. But that doesn't mean they're both the same game. When it comes to the trophies you would collect, the stage selection and games modes, both versions that they offer are entirely different. And when it comes to controlling your main Smash character on a portable setting, the controls feel really good. Dodges, grabs, and shielding are mapped to the shoulder buttons, and delivering specials and attacks feel comfortable with the 3DS's face buttons. And if you're playing this on the new Nintendo 3DS models, you can use the C-nub as quick smash attacks, and it even supports your compatible amiibo figurines, which is always a nice treat. All the characters here have these thick black outlines, which are there if the player decides to turn on the game's 3D effect, which honestly can be seen as distracting, especially during heated gameplay sessions. As for the multiplayer experience, that's where it becomes a deal breaker for anyone. In order to play local multiplayer with your friends on your 3DS systems, you not only need your own 3DS but also your own copy of the game, seeing as this game doesn't support download play. Online sessions are thankfully free compared to the online subscriptions of Smash Ultimate's Online. However, there are going to be moments during online sessions that can be seen as laggy, either because of bad internet connection or because the 3DS isn't strong enough to host online Smash sessions. Overall, if you still want a portable Smash experience, I rather recommend Smash Ultimate, but Smash 4 is always there if you're curious. As for recommending any Mario titles on the 3DS, there's so many to choose from, and I was hoping to save these games as separate videos, so let me do a quick lightning round on some of the best Mario games on the system. Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7, Mario & Luigi Dream Team, New Super Mario Bros. 2, to name a few. Oh wait, these are literally the only good Mario games on the system. And seeing as I recently covered the summer of Kirby this year, the Nintendo 3DS is home to the most Kirby games in one system, old and new. The 3DS's 3D Classic lineup has Kirby's Adventure on the system, in smooth frame rate and performance. The game also has Kirby's Dream Lands 1 and 2, and as for new Kirby games, we got Kirby's Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, and even full versions of Kirby's sub-game feature on the system. If you're a Kirby fan, the 3DS is the must-have for so many Kirby experiences. You'll get a bang for your buck owning a 3DS by just playing Kirby games. I really want to give this point for this category for both the 3DS and Vita, but seeing as I had to pick one, I guess the Vita got the win for this category. As much as the 3DS provides unique experiences when it comes to their first-party titles, many of the games does have its limitations. Heck, New Super Mario Bros. 2 doesn't really bring anything new to the table compared to its first entries in the New Soup series. But the PS Vita has PS2 to PS3 quality levels of gameplay, whether if you're playing first or third party titles, and many of their games run so beautifully on Vita, and that's why I guess the point for this round. This is gonna be a challenging one. When I say I'll be looking at the legacy that the 3DS and the PS Vita left behind, I meant it in two ways. When I think about the system after its discontinuation, and how the homebrewing experience in both systems bring a whole new level of enjoyment for each system. Seeing as I modded both my 3DS and Vita here, modding these systems are very easy. I had my brother work on my modding of the 3DS, while I took my time modding the PS Vita. And before we continue, I won't be saying anything on the step-by-step process of hacking your 3DS or Vita, because I'm not that good at explaining that to you, and there are tons of online how-to articles and videos out there that will teach you the ropes. I was happy that I figured out how to hack and mod the PS Vita, because after modding it to the correct custom firmware, I was open to an endless amount of possibilities on how many platforms and game titles that the PS Vita can handle. For the Vita, I would recommend installing 3 to 4 homebrew services. MGBA for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, RetroArch for NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, and CD games, and Adrenaline. Especially get Adrenaline. What Adrenaline is that you can play PS1 and PSP games region free. It basically turns your PS Vita into a PlayStation Portable. If there is a fighting game you want but it's exclusive to Japan, Adrenaline can bypass that. Want the entire Crash and Spiral PS1 trilogies on your system's collection? Adrenaline can do that. But where can you install all these games? Well, you can go online and
do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
But there is an easier method of getting PS Vita, PSP, and PS1 games, and many more, through the homebrew application PKGJ. PKGJ, I know this isn't the same as pirating, what are you talking about? PKGJ is essentially your PlayStation store of all the same RAW files of hundreds upon thousands of PS Vita, PSP, and PS1 games in one setting without the use of a computer. But you at least need your PS Vita connected to an internet service to get these games. Along with the software from all three of these platforms, the app also provides DLC content for specific games that you want. Though if this isn't still your thing, the legal method of buying games through the PS Store is still always there. But PKGJ provides other libraries from other regions, something that the official PS Store on your Vita might not have. Similar to PKGJ, the Nintendo 3DS equivalent to this service is the H-Store, and seeing as that Nintendo was butthurt enough to close the 3DS storefront, this is a definitive need for those who would have modded 3DS. It serves the same purpose as the PlayStation Vita's PKGJ application, but for 3DS software. You can download big 3DS digital titles, as well as games that you can only get through the eShop digitally, as well as home to some of the more forgotten DSiWare titles. You can also download DLC content from 3DS certain titles, and download 3DS videos to watch in 3D, and it's also region free. Wanna play all your DS runs without having to switch out cartridges? Rather than purchasing a physical R4 for your 3DS, there is a way to play your DS games through your SD card, while also keeping whatever physical DS or 3DS game that you want on your system. That is where the Twilight menu from the DSi homebrew comes in. It's an application that lets you play DS ROMs through your SD card without buying additional resources like an R4 cartridge. I have so many of these and none of them don't work anymore, so this Twilight menu was a godsend for me. Not only that, but the Twilight menu seems to have separate folders pre-installed to store ROMs from other platforms like Atari, Sega Genesis, NES, SNES, and Game Boy systems. Speaking of Game Boy, sadly, the MGBA application doesn't work properly on older 3DS models, and only works on the new 3DS models exclusively for Say. Instead, if you want to play some of your GBA games but want to see them on the 3DS home menu, the best method for older 3DS owners is to download injections, which are essentially installation files for a game system that download to your home menu. I'm not allowed to say how you can do this, but it's the best method to get GBA games working on older 3DS hardware. A homebrew 3DS can play NES, SNES, 3DS, DS, Sega Genesis, and Game Gear, and all 3 Game Boy versions. However, a PS Vita can also gift you PS Vita games, PS1 titles, PSP titles, not to mention the more obscure PSP minis and PSM mobile games. And with the homebrew, you can play a tons of retro hardware with platforms up to Sega CD, and there's even emulators for N64 and Dreamcast, something that the 3DS can't do. And seeing that I can play all of those titles at the comfort of my own hands is why the PS Vita gets a point for this round as well, and thus ending the competition with the PS Vita. And no, this isn't pity points for the PS Vita because of how it turned out in the sales and reception part. Though to be fair, it's all based on personal preferences. Both systems are amazing on their own ways. PS Vita has 2 functionally dual analog sticks and a small OLED screen for the 1000 model. The 3DS has an amazing library of first and third party games and has the most varied redesign for all handhelds so far. 3 old models and 3 new models. So no matter if you're hunting at your local retro game store or finding a great deal on eBay for 3DS or PS Vita, you're still going to be gifted with what would have to be the best and underappreciated generation of video game handhelds in the video game industry that has to offer. Yes, the 3DS has more successful sales than the Vita. Yes, the 3DS has a stronger first party titles than the Vita, but that doesn't mean people should ignore the Vita altogether. People never gave the PS Vita a chance when it's on store shelves because of the several factors that made people turn away from the Vita towards getting a 3DS. The proprietary memory cards being overpriced, the lack of support from Sony when it comes to its first party titles, but there's still a lot of good in this handheld, from the homebrewing community growing each day to the vast support of indie titles and indie game developers. I've enjoyed my time with the Vita just as equally as much as the 3DS, but man, the Vita really deserved a lot more love than the 3DS. Which is why I don't mind giving the win to the PlayStation Vita. So what are your thoughts on this comparison? Do you prefer the Nintendo 3DS or the PlayStation Vita? And what are some of your favorite games on each system? Let me know in the comments. I want to thank you guys so much for the support on this channel, and I'm kinda proud to make this comparison video and upload it for you guys to watch. Aside from this year's summer marathon, this is the most biggest project I have to do a lot of research on. I have a lot of comparison ideas in mind for this channel. but I think it's best that I do these comparison videos sparingly rather than back to back, especially with how long these scripts are compared to my usual length for videos. With that said, college session is coming back soon, and this means I will be changing my uploading schedule from now on. I plan on doing at least one video per month for consistency, and I hope to upload special videos during October, where I have 2 Halloween projects in mind. And yes, I will uphold my promise that I made in my Super Mario Galaxy review earlier this year, where I cover its sequel Super Mario Galaxy 2 by the end of this year. No matter what videos I upload on this channel, Super Mario Galaxy 2 will be my closure for this season. So, what videos I may upload in between? Stick around, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to find out. For now, I'm Christopher James, and I'll see you next time.
Dear PlayStation, why aren't you talking about the PSP?
Actually,
These PSP games are the business, and I can't stand hearing these kids talking about some weak app on the phone.
games, phone.
They're getting hustled, KB.
Hustle.
We need publicity for the PSP.
We're gonna do something about it.
PSP needs a hero.
Yeah.
A baller.
Yes.
Someone that ain't wearing a clip-on tie.